I wanted to share something that's been working pretty well for me with online ministry, and I've talked about it a couple of different times, but I really want to zero in right now and give kind of 7 tips in doing this well, and it has to deal with Facebook groups. I don't know if you've noticed, but more and more ministries and groups have been using Facebook groups highly effective. I'm in probably 5 very active Facebook groups, and I use for all various different reasons. But with ministry, specifically online ministry, Facebook groups have helped me a ton. Mainly because with our online page, we always have this problem where how do people congregate when there's no service happening? And I started this transition about 6 months ago where, you know what, I want to move them all into a Facebook group, and that can be the patio experience for my online ministry, and it's worked. Now, there's a lot of learning curves in that, and we're just now approaching 3,000 members in our Facebook group for Saddleback's online ministry. And it's been a fun ride, a lot of learnings, but I want to give you 7 tips in leading or facilitating a Facebook group effectively. Number 1, create a guidelines to why you created the group and pin it to the top of the post. Now, the one problem that I have with pinning is that on your mobile phone, you can't see the pin post. You have to view it. It's not automatically defaulted. On your desktop, it's there, but on a mobile you have to view it. But what that allows is it allows you to do a video introduction and kind of give you guidelines to how to use the group effectively or how to be a member of the group effectively. And what I have found is that it's most helpful when this leads into number 2, be okay with banning people and deleting posts and private messaging them why. And the guidelines are a helpful rule to kind of go, hey, this is why we have our group. It's not for you just to, promote stuff about your Christian book or to share about this. And sometimes we even have this issue with prayer requests. Sometimes prayer requests have been a little bit too descriptive, or somebody posts too much in the group, and I have to remind them that there's a lot of people in the group. And so doing something like, hey, we have a rule where you can only post 1 time a week as a main post. You can comment as much as you want, but just be selective. And then just being okay with banning and private messaging. And I've banned people, and I've been approached by them, and I've unbanned them. And so, but being okay, because you're thinking about the herd. You're trying to figure out, how do I make this a comfortable place? And if it becomes too spammy or too many posts and if people are abusing it, you have to be okay as the pastor or the leader to privately talk to them. And this leads to another part of that is be okay with the mess. Having a group with almost 3,000 people, and I'm part of groups or even more, I've seen Facebook groups get really chaotic and people get offended. And you know what? That happens when you're dealing with a lot of people. But be okay with the mess, because what you don't want to do is you don't want to shut it down for everybody just because a couple people make noise. Don't give them that much leverage. Ban them or private message them and kind of, remind them. And that's what I do, is that if somebody breaks a rule, I delete the post and say, hey, maybe you didn't see the guidelines, here it is. And if they break it again, I say I deleted it, and I say, hey, by the way, if you do that again, I'm going to have to remove you from the group. And sometimes they listen and sometimes they don't. And so remember, a Facebook group is just like anything else. Where you have people, you're going to have a mess, and don't be scared of that mess. Okay, so the next one that I have is talking about do weekly Facebook video posts, either a Facebook Live into the group or record a video and post it. What I love about that is that if it is your group, especially the more members you get, and this happens right after you get, probably 50 to 100 people, is that you want to have a prominent presence, or your staff wants to have a prominent presence there. So what I do is I do weekly Facebook live devotions, or I'll record videos and I'll upload them. I do Facebook Live and videos. I do both. I've tried at various different times, but having a visual presence there is really important, because it makes you the leader of it. And that's what I have found with my ministry, is that I want to have plenty of opportunities to establish myself as the pastor. And sometimes on our page, with our intros and outros on our church online page, or even on the chat, I don't always get that. And my Facebook group allows me to kind of establish that, hey, I'm the pastor, I'm here to help you, and here's my staff. And so having a weekly regular time where you do something like, maybe it's a debrief of the weekend, and typically that's what I do. Whatever was talked about on the weekend, on Monday or Tuesday, I'll do something regarding that topic, and then that allows me to have a presence there. And so when I do email people and I follow up with people, they're like, oh, hey, you're the pastor. And it leads to more opportunities for people knowing my face. Sometimes with online ministry, they only know my signature on my email or my email address. But this way, they actually get to know me more, and they get to know my family and more about me. Next, allow everybody to post. Don't limit it. And I know this is tough, because the easiest thing to do is to say only you or admins can post. But the problem with that is that the power of a Facebook group is the ability for you not to be the bottleneck. Because right now with your online ministry, or if you're doing something, if everything has to be manually approved, think about comments on a website. If everything has to be manually approved, it's only as dynamic or real time as you're able to approve it. But by allowing everybody to post, what you're doing is you are encouraging everybody to get in the way. And no longer am I having to facilitate A to B to get connected. Now the group does that. And this is one of the number one reasons why we initially started a group, was because I found that I wanted to connect people in different cities and states and countries, but I found over and over again I was the problem. It's only as quick as I could facilitate, and that became very time intensive, and it wasn't really scalable. So one of the first questions I asked in our group is I say, hey, by the way, when you're a new person in this group, post where you're watching from. And I love seeing people going, oh, hey, I'm a city over, or hey, I'm a country over, or hey, I didn't know there was somebody else in Australia in this group. And that facilitates community. So allow everybody to post, and using those guidelines and being okay with banning and deleting and private messaging people on that they disobeyed it allows for you to be okay with that. And again, it's going to be messy. Next, this is something that I think is probably the most powerful thing about having a Facebook group for your online ministry, is really encouraging people to post prayer requests. And I think that's something that I underestimated the power of our group. The amount of people that share private prayer requests, and then I get to see, before I even see it, you know, I'll have 30 replies or 100 likes on something, and they know that they are not alone. That we already have a prayer ministry and a follow-up ministry on our part of our online experience, but in our group people share stuff and it's linked to their personal bio, and I know people are private messaging them that they're praying for them. There's offline conversations, but being able to say one of the primary ways that you can get momentum going in your group is just, hey, if you got a prayer request, comment in this group. And then I will always, in my devotions, remind them in the weekly devotion. I just did this today, where I shared, hey, I was talking about Proverbs 30, and I was talking about the idea of that this group can be a refuge. It's Proverbs 35, and I was sharing how in this group you're seeing a lot of different prayer requests. Take time and pray for those. Don't just scroll on, but like it, pray for it. Be reminded that people are hurting, and we need to care for each other. And this Facebook group shows that we are a community. We're not just a viewing experience, but we are an online community. So encouraging people to post a prayer request is probably one of the most beneficial things that you'll see, and it'll just encourage people to get more and more connected. And then lastly, this is something that I've seen a couple of the groups do this, and I think this is a great outlet of doing this once a month. One of the tough things about managing a group with a lot of different people is that people tend to want to post stuff that's maybe more personal, meaning they might want to promote something that might not fit the group. What I have found, instead of stifling that, you know, you're going to stifle that because you have rules and guidelines and stuff like that, and you're going to delete and remove things. But doing once a month, kind of doing like, hey, this is the self-promotion post, by commenting and say, hey, if you got something that you're promoting, or, you know, a book maybe you've read, or something that you want to just tell people about, or, you know, a ministry that you want to promote, instead of allowing everybody to post it, doing once a month, kind of doing that as yourself as the admin, and say, hey, comment below. This is your time to kind of vent. You know what I mean? And I've seen a couple Facebook groups with more members than mine do this, and I think it's been a great outlet to kind of facilitate people to give a chance to promote. You know, because we're a church, we tend to only promote our church's ministries, or our ways to donate. But there's a lot of different things. You know, if somebody gets in a car accident and there's a fundraising or a Kickstarter, we don't want to say no to that all the time, but maybe something like this, where you have a self-promotion post of the month, this allows people to share that and the community get to. But I don't want the whole group to be just a bunch of ads and things to fundraise, because everybody's going to disengage. But if it's one comment thread, then people can choose to engage or not. But those are my 7 ways, not my 7 ways, but my 7 learnings with facilitating our Facebook group. I'll have more probably as it grows, but I would love to hear yours. Comment below on this video, or you know, you can private message me on Instagram. And so anyways, Facebook groups are a great way to build community with your online ministry.